It is officially mid-July here in the garden, and there are a lot of different things to do. Cosmo was just telling me I really need to get out there, start fertilizing, mulching, and applying compost across the garden. So let me tell you all the different things that I'm working on right now in my July garden. Before we get into some of these tasks, let me give you a quick rundown overview of the garden, the state that it's in. It does look really good, but there is a reason why this is my least favorite time of the year. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little when I say it's my least favorite, but it's my least favorite in the sense that there is a lot to do out here. There's so many plants that need to get tied up, there's disease that's starting to show, and while things are looking good for the most part, like my new crop of tomatoes here, look absolutely wonderful, the peppers are producing really wonderfully, and I don't have any major problems with these plants, but there are pockets of my garden that I will be showing you today that do have problems, and one of them is actually in this bed right over there. I wanted to start off with this bed here because it is a problem, and I wanted to show you guys that there are problems in everyone's garden, and it's fine. The problem here is that I totally neglected this bed. I did not prune it, I did not trellis it in time, and then I went on vacation, and here's where we're at. What you'll see is that the weight of the plants, since I wasn't pruning it properly, has pulled in the T-post out of the ground, has collapsed the whole system here, and this one plant is Cherokee Purple, has entirely outgrown its neighbor, which was supposed to be Delicious Hunt, and now all I have is Cherokee Purple. But the thing I wanted to really show you guys here is that even though it looks like this travesty, take a look inside. You are still getting tons of fruit. Now, if your goal is to have a perfectly aesthetic garden with zero issues, well, that's going to be challenging. But my point here is that anyone could still have a successful garden, and a successful garden to me is one that you enjoy spending time in and that you could actually harvest plenty of fruits and vegetables. So let's talk about how to set up ourselves to have a successful later half of the year, even if we have a couple bumps in the road. So fortunately, this bumpy road still led to a wonderful harvest of many delicious tomatoes. I might have not got the variety, but I still got plenty of harvest of these Cherokee Purples. So what's going on here, and how do we set ourselves up to have a successful rest of the year? Some things like that, maybe they're your fault. You left on vacation and didn't do the little prune job, but there are tons of other things we could do to set up the rest of our garden for success throughout the rest of summer. Here's a quick little lazy boy Cosmo update. Yeah, you just like sitting in the shade while I work in the sun all day. First thing we're going to be doing today is gathering up some supplies, and the first one is going to be compost, and we're going to be coming back to this later to make some more compost by the end of this video. But let me show you something right now, one of the benefits and also maybe problems with having dogs. So here's the compost pile we were just looking at, and here is the active pile. So that's the finished one we're going to be scooping from. The active pile is currently at about 120, and then behind it is Cosmo. Cosmo, there he is. He likes to hide behind the compost bin because he knows that as I'm scooping in there, if there are any rats hiding in that compost bin, they will run out and he will catch them. So if you have a problem with rats or mice, sometimes moving into your compost, they really only move in when the compost goes cold. Well, then get yourself a dog and they'll handle it for you. So the reason we're here in the first place is that we need to get some of this compost. Compost is a really wonderful tool to use, especially in the summertime. And I'll show you exactly how I'm using it right now. A couple things before we move on. First of all, you probably saw me slide this plywood over my box. That is to keep the heat from beating on my pile because I don't want it to be sterilizing all of this wonderful compost life that's in here. If it's covered by something like this to block the sun, you'll have more chances of like worms coming up to the surface, roly-polies helping break down the final material. And what this is unsifted compost, and you could see it's actually quite fine and finished by the end. You might have little sticks like this, but that's no big deal because the way we're using it, it doesn't matter if it's chunky. The last two are straw, whatever kind, or even just mulch, whatever you have on hand, and some sort of organic-based fertilizer. If there's one thing that's true in my July garden is that I am quickly running out of space to even get my cameras in here. But let me show you how I like to prepare this delicious, nutritious sandwich to feed my crops for a long period of time. So it's all going to start down here, which is where we're working on the soil level. The first thing I want to do is actually move some of this mulch aside. Once we move the mulch out of the way, it's time to prepare the soil to accept all of this nutrition. Here are 3 different ways of doing this job using 3 different tools. The main goal here is to break up the soil surface. So something like this hula hoe, this is a mini handheld oscillating hoe or hula hoe, is really great because you could just go like this. It helps bring some of that lower soil up to the surface and breaks up any of that compactness. The next thing is the cobra head here. So what you could do is just take this and just run it all along your soil, breaking it up and getting into that deeper level. Now don't worry about ruining any roots for these tomato plants. They are quite old and vigorous at this point, and they're not going to be hurt by disturbing any surface roots. The last one, probably the most common option for you guys out there, is just using a trowel. And I'll even do it on this really compact ground here to show you how easy it is. You just want to go down and then twist your wrist. Down, twist your wrist, just like that. It'll help break up and loosen that soil, make it really easy to apply that fertilizer. So here's what the soil looks like once we've loosened it up. Now it's nice and free. It's gonna be very easy to mix in our fertilizer. And today I'm using the Espoma Garden Tone. But really the most important thing here is that it's organic, and it should either say like all purpose or urban vegetable or just vegetable, and you're safe, you're totally fine. You don't have to get a specialty tomato fertilizer. It's not that big of a deal. The only plants that really need specialty stuff are like blueberries or acid living plants that need an acid-based mix. So now let's go ahead and get this bag open. And what we're going to do is use this trowel, take ourselves a nice scoop here. You can see the organic stuff is made out of all sorts of ingredients. It's not just a pure nutrient like a synthetic fertilizer would be. And what I'm going to do here is scatter it everywhere where we just loosen up that soil. Now you can overdo it, not so much with organic. It's actually kind of hard to overdo it because this isn't literally nutrients that your plants are immediately going to use. This is a combination of natural materials like alfalfa meal or maybe rock phosphate. The soil life in here is going to break it up, and once that breaks it up, the plants are now going to use it, which is why organic fertilizer is so great, because it is long lasting, it's slow release, and it's generally not going to burn, or like, which is a fertilizer burn your plants, because it's organic and it needs to be broken down first. So all I'm doing here is making sure that that fertilizer is covered or at least incorporated into the soil, because that's going to make it that much easier for the soil life to actually break it down. Now it's time to add the compost on top of that organic fertilizer. So all we're going to do here is we're not going crazy. We don't need to like build up a tall layer. We're just skimming the surface here. Anything that you could spare. I know compost can be hard to come by, but if it's like a 1/4 inch, it's better than nothing. If you can get away with like a 1/2 inch, that would be more ideal. The goal of compost is to build the organic matter in your soil over time. This compost is absolutely loaded up with all sorts of organic life in there. There's bacteria, there's little nematodes that are good and maybe bad, hopefully not bad. There's even roly-polies, worms, all sorts of stuff in here. And really the goal of this is to boost the organic matter of that soil. And it's also going to be loading up the soil with life that will help break down that fertilizer we just added and make it more readily available to these plants in this season as soon as possible, because these plants have been putting in work and they're definitely hungry. So here's what that layer looks like. You can see if I scoot it, I'm barely covering that soil surface. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. The final step here is to add some mulch. I'm using garden straw, which is a pre-processed, pre-chopped straw product. I like straw because it's very good at retaining water. It breaks down fast and it will help feed the soil as well as build my organic matter in my soil. So that is the last ingredient in the sandwich, and I'll explain exactly how this works now. The reason why this is such an extremely powerful combination at this time of year is that A, the fertilizer will feed these plants, which have been sucking up nutrients producing food all season long. B, the compost is going to help insulate that fertilizer, break it down faster, build soil organic matter, and increase more life in your soil, which is all good stuff. And C, the last ingredient, straw here, is going to make sure that this stays nice and well watered, even watering throughout the soil. Thanks to that mulch regulation ability, it'll keep the soil cooler. So as I get it into August, which is one of the hottest months of the year here, September sometimes beats it in San Diego, these plants are now ready to not suffer from so much heat and water stress. They will have all the nutrients they need and the water retention capabilities thanks to that mulch that we added. So while I am stressing the importance of doing this to established long-lived plants like these tomatoes, I will be doing the exact same thing to these tomatoes here, which were only planted maybe a month ago. So they're 2-month-old plants compared to like 5-6-month-old plants over here. These guys are about to start producing. They've already taken up a lot of nutrients and they're going to appreciate that just as much. So if you guys wanted to know a variety of sweet pea, they will definitely grow extremely tall, smell very fragrant, and actually there's maybe 5 or 6 blooms left. This is what it looks like. This is Beaujolais from Botanical Interest. Really wonderful, kind of deep purple, almost wine-like color, hence the name Beaujolais, but wonderful sweet pea. Still smells good, even though the rest of the plant is clearly spent. This has been growing here in the garden for maybe about 4 months, and it's just been blooming nonstop. As you can see, I'm not even deadheading. It's absolutely covered in seeds here. I'm sure I'm going to be scattering a bunch of them as I clean this out, but let's see how easy it is, because peas have tendrils, they wrap around, and that can be a problem. So what I'm going to do first is go at the base, snip them, and see if we could just pull the whole thing down. So what I did is I went to the base, I cut every single plant right above the soil level to leave the roots in the ground. Since this is a pea of some sort, it surely has fixed some nitrogen in there, and I don't want to rip those roots out. I'd rather keep them in the soil for the next plant. But the crazy thing is that this whole entire wall here is literally just 7 plants. I just counted them as I snipped them. Honestly, I'm a little bit shocked. So now, let's see if I can pull this down without destroying the whole trellis. I've already noticed something that's got me excited, which is just removing a little bit of that clock vine and these peas has brought in a ton of light into the garden right here. So we're definitely going to be planting some fruiting plant on this climbing trellis. But first I have to cut out more of this ridiculousness up top. Forgot I put a old spent sunflower on top there to feed the native birds here. And I literally just forgot I put it there. If you're wondering what tool I'm using to do all this, it's just a handy garden knife, one that I don't care about how I use it. I'm running it all along the welded wire fence here because I'm sharpening it often, and it's a tool. It's not some pretty thing I keep in my pocket. It's an extremely useful tool I use all the time to prune in my garden. There's definitely a messy little job there, but I am so happy I did this. I actually am mad at myself that I didn't do this earlier, because the amount of light that's freed up in my garden is absolutely insane. So let's get this ground prepped and get some more plants in. So we actually have a lot of dead space here in the garden, and it's really just my fault. The first one is this trellis here. There's a lot of gaps on it. There are a lot of plants that are actually suffering a bit. They're not really living their best life, so why am I keeping them? And also I have a bunch of dry beans. These are actually gigante beans, the big old white beans. They're now fully dried. So actually, let me just show you what that looks like really quick. So these are my giant white beans. They're not as big as I was hoping, but they're definitely plenty big, and they're going to be an absolutely fabulous soup bean. Now, this space in general is also underutilized. I have recently added a watermelon over here, a melon on that side, but I have some more space here, so I want to throw in another melon perhaps to let this bed sprawl over here into the sunnier area. It's not sunny now because it's late afternoon, but this area over here is probably the worst used space in my entire garden. And it's because of this. It gets so much shadow in the late afternoon, and in the morning it doesn't get any of that direct light. So it's kind of a little bit of a dead zone, which is why I've been putting trees here, since they could actually reach up taller and still get the light. You could see the plum has the light. This pear is still capturing light. But I might be building a shade garden here. So let me know if you guys are interested in seeing what kind of plants you could grow in the shade that are edibles, because I've really wanted to do that for a while. But anyway, that's not going to happen today. Over here, what we need to deal with is some of this dead, diseased foliage. We'll be doing some pruning up on this, but also it's time for these broccolis to go. I have actually got a decent amount of harvest off of these as little side shoot heads, but now I've come to that point of the year where birds are actually eating it before I could even get to it. I love them at this little teeny size because I could just pluck out a bunch of them, throw them in a quick saute for lunch. But now I'm not even getting those because the birds are getting them. And I want to claw back some of the sunny garden space that I have because so much of it is in shade. Here's all that stuff that we removed, which we are going to compost after this. But first, let me step on this ridiculous pile here. We're gonna pop into the greenhouse because the other week I actually bought some cucumber starts, because even though I just started some, here they are. I knew I was going to be working on this project and I wanted to get it growing as fast as possible. And we've actually been missing some Persian cucumbers in the garden. I grew too many pickling cukes this year. So we're gonna get these in the ground here, but let me explain why I'm not putting them on that trellis over there. Every year as gardeners, we have to struggle with the same decision, which is where do I put my plants, and does it matter if I put them there last year? Most of the time, no. Rotation I don't think is always necessary, for sure, but at some point it will catch up to you, and that might be in 4 years, might be in 5 years, and honestly it's probably a reason to say you should rotate, but sometimes it never catches up to you and everything's fine. And if you don't have the space to move things around wherever you want, this is what you run into. So early in the season, I planted my cucumbers and climbing beans on this trellis here, and they did extremely well early on. But now once July hit, it started to get hot. I think some diseases woke up in the soil and they made their way into my cucumbers here, which then began to suffer. Otherwise, nothing has really changed. They have adequate water. They've even been sprayed with potassium bicarbonate to try to beat some of the powdery mildew, but it just wasn't enough. I think the soil-borne diseases in here are what took over and killed my cucumber. Still has a fruit on here. Now, one exception is on that side, where that cucumber is still doing fine and was planted at the same time, but I did not grow any cucumbers on that side of the trellis previously. For some reason, I always put them right here, and this is what happened. Now, of course, like I mentioned, this could never happen. It could have been fine and the disease wasn't there. And sometimes you take the risk because you don't have anywhere else that's good for growing cucumbers. So instead of replanting cucumbers where I already had a problem due to disease, it's now time to move on to a new clean area where cucumbers have not grown, I think, ever. Last year I grew melons here. So instead I'll put the cucumbers here, and then I'll probably move some climbing squash or melons onto this trellis. Probably one of the most important things that anyone can be doing in their garden right now is harvesting, making sure you're not wasting that produce, making sure you're freeing up energy for your plants to continue to harvest. So a lot of people don't realize if you leave something on a plant for too long, it actually thinks it's met its purpose in life. It only wants to produce seed and procreate. Once it does that, it doesn't really have any reason to live. So if you don't harvest often enough, you could end up actually stunting your plants and maybe killing off some of your harvest. So what I'm doing here is trellising up these tomatoes on a single stake. This is a system I don't really use that often, but these are 4 new varieties to me that I wanted to test out to see if I like. And so that is why we went with this system, because I don't need to commit to them growing in that much space. I could get a flavor out of it. If I like it, I could support it harder. But for now, my main goal is to make sure that I at least keep the main stem of this plant up and off the ground. Because I'll tell you right now, I've already actually had to prune a lot off this plant. And what we're going to do is, since I'm doing a single stem, I'm not so focused on crazy production, is I'm going to come in here and prune off any of these like lower branches that I just don't want to bother supporting, like so. And we're going to be moving this into the compost pile. On my way back over, I noticed this ridiculous pile of sweet marjoram here. This plant has definitely outgrown the space I wanted it to. So let's give this a haircut and we'll include it in the compost. Here's the general pile of debris that we collected. Most of it is tomatoes. I did grab some other random stuff I saw along the way, but now let's get over to the compost pile and get ready for the rest of the season. Here is the tool in question that I was talking about for my compost pile. It's actually a sidewalk scraper. I believe the idea is that you scrape it along the sidewalk to get any weeds out. But what I did is I saw this and I was like, this is the tool I need for my compost. I got myself a file and then I made this very sharp, at least sharp enough that I could chop through plants pretty easily. And I've been loving this thing. If I have a big or a small pile, I should say, that I throw right onto my compost, I take this, I go and chop it up into a bunch of fine pieces, which is what we're going to do here, but on a much bigger scale. All that stuff we pulled out, we're now going to be able to return it to our compost pile, which means that we're going to get wonderful compost made by the time fall arrives. And when I pull those tomatoes out, I could then add a nice fresh layer of compost across my bed. So let's get this all chopped up. You'll see just how well this works. I'm quite pleased. And here's what we've ended up with. A bunch of really nicely chopped up material. Anywhere I grab it, it's wonderful. It's broken down. I'm a little winded. Nice little workout there. Good shoulder workout. But now this is nicely processed. It's chopped up enough that it will quickly heat up and break down in the compost. So now we got to move this over to our compost bin. Before we move on to the next task, quick reminder, guys, to always have some seeds starting. I have more right here. That is partially a little bit of early fall stuff to experiment with in case it's a cool summer. You never know. And then in here, I have a bunch of different stuff. I have a whole flat of rooted dragon fruit cuttings. We're gonna have to figure out where the heck to put those at some point. Some avocados I need to do some grafting work on. That's kind of for fun, a little secret project. And I have a ton of peppers here, which I actually started with the intention of keeping in the greenhouse. I also have some melons and squashes and 4 cells and more cucumbers and peppers over here. Now let me show you why I'm growing so many peppers and cucumbers this late in the year. First off, I should mention that I added my solar panel here. That's the solar panel that's powering my battery, which is actually powering my fan to make sure I have circulation in here. But I've also gone ahead and added some shade fabric over here to this south facing wall to provide a little bit of shade here, because I have a min-max thermometer down there and it was reading 110 degrees. So now that we have it shaded, it's actually really pleasant in here for plants that love the heat but don't want it crazy hot. So the cucumber which is just in one container here. I have 1, 2, 3 leads. I've already harvested 6 cucumbers off of here, and it's just going to be climbing up this string here, all the way up to the top of my greenhouse right there. Now, the other thing I've noticed is that the peppers are loving it in here. So this is one that I transplanted not too long ago. It looks really happy and healthy. So I'm going to get a bunch of 5-gallon pots here loaded up with peppers. This is going to become a pepper factory through the summertime. But the main thing I really want to show you guys there were all the different seedlings, because it's important in this time of year, if you can. I know it's hard to think about it when it's super hot, but get some more seeds started. It allows you that freedom to swap in plants whenever you have an open space or a dead space in your garden. Here's the first chunk of that pile, straight into the compost bin. Get this thermometer out of the way. Now we can do a second chop. Off to the side of my compost, I keep a little green bin full of chopped up wood mulch. This is actually from my mulberry tree that I chopped up earlier in the year. And now I'm able to feed it back into my compost pile and use it as a brown. Now that we've added all the ingredients, I'm gonna go ahead and reset this compost thermometer. I expect that this might go into the very hot zone, into the 140s, because this was quite a lot of stuff that we just added on. Now it's important, especially in the winter time, to water your compost pile as you're building it, especially once you're adding stuff like wood chips instead of straw. This is going to take a decent amount of water before it even gets damp. And of course, all that green matter will also release plenty of water as it breaks down. So this will be all heated up. This pile should be broken down by the time we get into fall. I have no problems thinking that. These piles break down very rapidly in the summertime when it's nice and warm, and you're feeding it plenty of delicious greens that are going to get this pile really hot really fast. So that's it for July, guys. It's mostly about harvesting, pruning, supporting, feeding, and removing plants to make space for new stuff instead of wasting your time leaving a plant there to die, taking up space, making you feel bad. Get it out of there, put something new in, and enjoy that lush new growth and the future harvest that you'll get from it.